My beloved child, stop for a moment and listen carefully. Before you rush past this moment, before you tell yourself that these words are meant for someone else, I want you to consider something. Out of all the places you could have been, out of all the voices you could have heard, out of all the distractions competing for your attention right now, you are here. You are reading these words at this exact moment, and deep within your heart, there is a question quietly rising. Why am I here? Why did this appear in front of me today? Why now? I know how easy it would be to dismiss this as coincidence. I know how quickly the human mind tries to explain away the things it does not fully understand. But I want you to slow down long enough to hear what your spirit has already begun to sense. Not everything that happens in your life is random. Not every moment arrives without purpose. There are times when heaven gently interrupts the ordinary flow of your day because something important needs your attention. This is one of those moments. I see the weariness you have been carrying. I see the thoughts that have followed you through the day and lingered beside you at night. I see the questions you have not spoken aloud. Questions about your future. Questions about your purpose. Questions about whether anyone truly sees the battles you fight behind closed doors. And because I see them, I am speaking to you now, not with condemnation, not with disappointment, but with the tenderness of a shepherd calling for a sheep he loves. There is a reason your eyes stopped here. There is a reason your heart feels a quiet pull to keep listening. There is a reason this moment feels different from countless other moments that have passed before it. You may not understand that reason yet. You may not see the full picture. But you do not need to see the entire road before taking the next step. Sometimes all you need is the willingness to pause and listen. My child, I have watched you searching for answers in places that could never satisfy the deepest needs of your soul. I have seen you carry burdens in silence. I have seen you smile when others were watching and struggle when no one was around. I have seen you continue moving forward, even when your heart felt exhausted. And through every moment, through every disappointment, through every unanswered question, I have remained near, closer than you realized, closer than you felt. There have been times when you thought I was silent. Times when you wondered whether your prayers had disappeared into empty space. Times when you questioned whether I still had a purpose for your life. But even then, I was working in ways you could not yet see. Even then, I was arranging moments, opening paths, closing doors, protecting you from dangers you never knew existed, and preparing your heart for conversations like this one. Timing matters, my child. There is a timing for every season, a timing for every lesson, a timing for every blessing, and a timing for every invitation. The fact that you are here now is not an accident of timing. It is part of a greater story that has been unfolding around you for longer than you know. Long before this day arrived, I knew this moment would come. Long before you felt the weight you are carrying today, I knew exactly where you would be. Long before your questions formed in your mind, I already understood them. And still, I chose this moment to speak. Not because I want to frighten you, not because I want to pressure you, but because I love you too much to remain silent when your heart needs hope. There is a hidden message within this moment, and it is simpler than you think. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are not walking through life alone. Your story is not drifting without direction. Your life has value. Your tears matter. Your prayers matter. Your heart matters. And the fact that you are here right now is a reminder that I am still reaching for you. So do not rush away. Do not close your heart. Do not convince yourself that this is meaningless. Instead, take a breath. Let the noise fade for just a moment. Let your soul become still enough to hear what I have been whispering all along. Because this moment was not placed before you without reason. This is not a random interruption. This is a divine appointment. And there is more waiting for you here than you can see right now. And as you remain here with me, I want you to stop trying to be strong for just a moment. Stop trying to explain everything away. Stop trying to convince yourself that you are fine when deep inside you know how tired you have become. My child, there is something you have been carrying for a long time, and perhaps you have carried it for so long that it no longer feels unusual. It has become part of your daily life, part of your thoughts, part of your breathing, part of the way you move through each day, yet it is still heavy, and I see it. I see the exhaustion that others do not notice. I see the silent struggle hidden behind your responsibilities. I see the emotional fatigue that follows you, even into moments that should bring you joy. There are days when you wake up already feeling drained, not because your body lacks strength, but because your heart has been carrying too much for too long. You have tried to stay positive. You have tried to keep moving forward. You have tried to be the dependable one, the strong one, the understanding one. But underneath it all, there is a quiet weariness that few people truly understand. You have carried disappointments you rarely talk about. You have carried unanswered questions. You have carried memories that still ache when they return unexpectedly. You have carried fears about the future that you do not always admit, even to yourself. Sometimes the burden is not one single event. Sometimes it is the accumulation of many small wounds, the prayers that seemed unanswered, the doors that remained closed, the relationships that changed, the expectations that were never fulfilled, the constant pressure of trying to hold everything together while feeling like you are falling apart inside. I know about the moments when your smile felt heavier than your tears. I know about the times when people asked how you were doing, and you answered, "I am fine," because explaining the truth felt too exhausting. I know about the nights when your mind would not rest, when you replayed conversations, when you questioned decisions, when you wondered whether things would ever become easier. My child, I see the hidden pain that lives beneath the surface, the pain that does not always have words, the pain that cannot always be explained, the pain that appears as numbness some days and sadness on others, the pain that makes even simple tasks feel overwhelming, the pain that whispers that nobody truly understands what you are carrying, but I understand. I see the moments when you feel surrounded by people and yet somehow lonely. I see the moments when you long for comfort but do not know where to find it. I see the moments when you grow tired of pretending that everything is all right. You have spent so much energy surviving that you have forgotten what it feels like to rest. You have spent so much effort protecting your heart that you hardly remember what it feels like to breathe freely. And perhaps what exhausts you most is not what is happening around you, but what is happening within you. The constant pressure, the constant worry, the constant need to keep going, the constant fear of disappointment, the constant battle between hope and discouragement. It is tiring, is it not? It is tiring to carry invisible burdens. It is tiring to fight battles nobody else can see. It is tiring to keep showing up when part of you feels empty. Yet even now, I do not want you to judge yourself for being tired. I do not want you to feel guilty for feeling overwhelmed. You are not weak because your heart is weary. You are not failing because you feel exhausted. You are not broken because some days feel heavier than others. You are human. You have been carrying more than you were ever meant to carry alone. And while others may only see the version of you that keeps functioning, I see the deeper truth. I see the hidden tears behind your composure. I see the silent prayers beneath your silence. I see the emotional weight behind your strength. Nothing about your struggle is invisible to me. Nothing about your pain is unnoticed. Nothing about your weariness has escaped my attention. I have seen every moment of it, every sigh, every disappointment, every hidden burden, every silent struggle. And even when nobody else understood the depth of what you were carrying, I was there, watching over you with compassion, understanding every part of your heart. And as those burdens remained on your shoulders day after day, something else began to happen quietly beneath the surface. Not all at once, not in a single moment. But little by little, a belief started taking root inside your heart. A belief you never intended to accept. A belief that seemed small at first, yet slowly began shaping the way you saw yourself, the way you saw your future, and even the way you saw me. My child, I want you to look closely at what has been happening within you, because sometimes the deepest pain does not come from what happened to you. Sometimes it comes from the conclusions you drew because of what happened. You experienced disappointment, and eventually you began to wonder if you were forgotten. You faced rejection, and eventually you began to wonder if you were not enough. You waited longer than expected, and eventually you began to wonder if your prayers mattered at all. You encountered closed doors, and eventually you started believing that perhaps good things were meant for everyone except you. These thoughts did not arrive announcing themselves as lies. They arrived disguised as logic. They arrived disguised as self-protection. They arrived disguised as realism, yet they slowly became the lens through which you viewed your life. You began questioning your worth. You began doubting your purpose. You began measuring yourself against others and wondering why their journey seemed easier than yours. You saw their victories and compared them to your struggles. You saw their breakthroughs and compared them to your waiting season. You saw their smiles and compared them to your hidden tears, and the voice of self-doubt grew louder. Perhaps you started believing that you had failed too many times. Perhaps you started believing that your mistakes defined you. Perhaps you started believing that if you were stronger, wiser, more faithful, more disciplined, or more worthy, things would be different. My child, fear has a way of turning temporary circumstances into permanent identities. A difficult season whispers, "This is who you are." A painful experience whispers, "This is all you will ever be." A disappointment whispers, "Nothing will ever change." And if those whispers remain unchallenged long enough, they begin to sound like truth. I know there have been moments when you looked at yourself through eyes of criticism instead of compassion. Moments when you focused on everything you thought was wrong with you. Moments when you felt inadequate, overlooked, unimportant, or unseen. I know there were times when you entered a room and immediately felt less than everyone around you. Times when you questioned whether you mattered. Times when you wondered if anyone would truly miss you, if you disappeared into the background. Those thoughts have weighed heavily upon your heart. Yet the deepest false belief may not be about yourself at all. It may be about me, because hidden beneath many of your fears is a painful question you rarely speak aloud. If God truly sees me, then why does it hurt this much? If God truly cares, then why am I still waiting? If God is near, why do I sometimes feel so alone? My child, I know those questions. I know the confusion behind them. I know the ache behind them. But before you can fully understand the truth, you must first recognize the lie that has been quietly influencing your thoughts. The lie that says you are forgotten. The lie that says your story does not matter. The lie that says your future is already decided by your past. The lie that says you are not enough. The lie that says nobody sees your struggle. The lie that says hope is for other people but not for you. These beliefs have exhausted you because they force you to carry a weight that was never meant to be yours. They keep you fighting battles inside your own mind. They keep you questioning your value when your value was never determined by your circumstances. And while these false beliefs may have been speaking loudly, they have never been speaking truth. For even now, beneath the fear, beneath the doubt, beneath the uncertainty, there is something deeper within you that still longs to believe that you are seen, that you are loved, and that your life is not forgotten. And that is where I want to gently take your hand and show you something that may surprise you, my child. Because while you have been looking at your life through the lens of pain, fear, and self-doubt, I have been seeing something entirely different. You have been looking at your wounds. I have been looking at your endurance. You have been looking at your delays. I have been looking at your growth. You have been looking at what has not happened yet. I have been looking at everything that has already been formed within you. You see weakness where I see strength. You see failure where I see perseverance. You see brokenness where I see a heart that has continued to love despite disappointment. My child, you have been measuring yourself according to battles you never expected to face, and because of that, you have overlooked the evidence of how far you have already come. You tell yourself that you are tired, and yes, you are tired. But I see something more. I see a person who kept moving forward when quitting would have been easier. You tell yourself that you are struggling. And yes, you have struggled. But I see a person who continued standing through storms that would have convinced many others to give up. You tell yourself that you are not enough. Yet I see someone who has survived seasons that once seemed impossible. You focus on the moments when you fell. I remember every moment you got back up. You focus on your unanswered questions. I see the faith that kept searching even when the answers did not come quickly. You focus on your tears. I see the courage it took to keep believing through them. There are things growing inside you that you cannot fully see yet. Just as a seed develops beneath the soil long before anyone notices signs of life above the ground, much of what I have been doing in your heart has been hidden from view. Hidden growth is still growth. Hidden healing is still healing. Hidden strength is still strength. The fact that you cannot measure it does not mean it is absent. In fact, some of the most important work I do happens in places human eyes cannot see. You have asked yourself why this season has been so difficult, why progress has seemed so slow, why clarity has felt distant. Yet what if the story is different from what you imagine? What if this season has not been evidence that you are falling behind? What if it has been evidence that your roots are growing deeper than before? My child, when I look at you, I do not see a person defined by mistakes. I do not see a person defined by failures. I do not see a person defined by fears. I see someone created with purpose. I see someone who still carries compassion after being hurt. I see someone who still longs for hope after disappointment. I see someone whose heart still responds when I call. That matters more than you realize. There have been moments when you felt invisible, yet from my perspective, nothing about your journey has been overlooked. Every act of kindness that nobody thanked you for, every sacrifice that went unnoticed, every quiet prayer whispered through tears, every decision to keep trusting when circumstances tempted you to stop, I saw all of it. Not one moment was wasted. Not one act of faithfulness disappeared into nothingness. You may feel ordinary, but I see a story being written with extraordinary care. You may feel weak, but I see strength developing through every challenge you have faced. You may feel forgotten, but I have never once taken my eyes off you. My child, there is a difference between how fear sees you and how I see you. Fear magnifies your limitations. I see your potential. Fear focuses on what is missing. I see what is growing. Fear tells you that your best days are behind you. I see possibilities that have not even entered your imagination yet. Fear says that you are stuck. I see a life still unfolding. Fear says that you are damaged. I see a beloved child still becoming everything I created you to be. And if only you could see yourself for a moment through my eyes, you would realize that the story fear has been telling you is not the story I have been writing all along. And perhaps that brings you to another question that has quietly lived in your heart for a long time. If I see your potential, if I have not forgotten you, if your story is still unfolding, then why has it taken so long? Why has the answer not come sooner? Why has the breakthrough seemed delayed? Why has this season lasted longer than you expected? My child, I understand that question because waiting is rarely easy. Waiting can feel confusing when you cannot see what is happening beneath the surface. Waiting can feel painful when your heart longs for change. Waiting can feel lonely when everyone else appears to be moving ahead while you remain in the same place. Yet what if your waiting season is not what you think it is? What if it is not evidence of rejection, but evidence of preparation? What if it is not a sign that I have forgotten you, but a sign that I am carefully building something that cannot be rushed? Think about a seed for a moment. When a seed is placed into the soil, there is often a period when nothing appears to be happening. From the outside, the ground looks unchanged. There are no visible signs of growth, no flowers, no fruit, no evidence that life is developing. Yet beneath the surface, something important is taking place. Roots are forming. Strength is developing. Foundations are being established. The hidden work comes before the visible work. The unseen growth comes before the visible harvest. My child, many people become discouraged because they judge their progress only by what they can see. But I see deeper than that. I see what is happening beneath the surface of your life. I see the character being formed. I see the wisdom being developed. I see the compassion being deepened. I see the resilience growing stronger. These things are not always visible, but they matter more than you realize. There are blessings that require deeper roots. There are responsibilities that require greater maturity. There are prayers whose answers must arrive at the right season in order to become a blessing instead of a burden. You have often focused on the destination, but I have also been focused on the person you are becoming along the way. Because what I prepare for you is important, but who you become is even more important. Every season serves a purpose. Spring awakens what was dormant. Summer strengthens what is growing. Autumn reveals what has matured. Winter develops trust when the landscape appears empty. Yet no season lasts forever. The difficulty comes when you are standing in one season while longing for another. You may look at the winter of your life and wonder where the flowers are. You may look at the buried seed and wonder where the harvest is. But timing does not determine value. The seed beneath the soil is no less alive simply because it has not yet emerged. The roots beneath the ground are no less important simply because nobody can see them. My child, some of the greatest growth in your life has happened during seasons you would never have chosen. Seasons of waiting taught you patience. Seasons of uncertainty taught you trust. Seasons of disappointment taught you where true hope must be placed. Seasons of silence taught you to listen more closely. None of those experiences were wasted. None of them were meaningless. None of them escaped my purpose. You may not yet understand every reason for the waiting, and that is all right. Understanding is not always required before growth can occur. A seed does not understand the process while it is developing beneath the soil. It simply continues growing. And in the same way, even while you have questioned the timing, even while you have wondered why the journey feels longer than expected, growth has been taking place within you. Preparation has been happening. Strength has been forming. Roots have been reaching deeper. My child, the waiting season was never meant to convince you that I had abandoned you. It was meant to prepare you for what comes next. And even now, while you stand in the middle of the process, I want you to know that nothing about this season has been empty. I have been present in every moment, guiding growth you could not yet see, and preparing a future that is still unfolding before you. And while so much of your attention has been focused on what has not arrived yet, there is another question that deserves your attention. Not what are you waiting for, but who are you becoming while you wait? My child, transformation is often quieter than people expect. Many imagine growth as a sudden breakthrough, a dramatic moment, or an instant change. But some of the deepest transformations happen gradually, almost invisibly, through ordinary days and difficult seasons. They happen when life does not go according to plan. They happen when prayers take longer than expected. They happen when circumstances force you to develop qualities that comfort alone could never produce. You have spent time wondering whether progress was happening, yet there is more taking place inside you than you realize. The version of you that entered this season is not the same version standing here now. You have been shaped by experiences that challenged you. You have been refined by moments that stretched you. You have learned lessons that could not have been learned any other way. Consider the wisdom that has been growing within you. There was a time when you believed every opportunity should be pursued. Now you understand that not every open door is meant for you. There was a time when you sought answers as quickly as possible. Now you have begun learning the value of patience. There was a time when you measured success by appearances. Now you understand that some of the most valuable growth happens where nobody is looking. Wisdom is not merely knowing more information. Wisdom is learning how to see life through a deeper perspective, and that perspective has been developing within you. Then there is resilience. You may not think of yourself as resilient because you remember every moment when you felt afraid. You remember every time you questioned yourself. You remember every day when moving forward felt difficult. Yet resilience is not the absence of struggle. Resilience is continuing despite struggle. It is taking another step when certainty is unavailable. It is choosing not to quit when discouragement tries to convince you otherwise. Every challenge you have faced has strengthened something inside you. Every setback has taught you how to stand again. Every disappointment has revealed that you are stronger than you once believed. And there is patience. My child, patience is one of the most misunderstood gifts of growth. Many people think patience means passively waiting. But true patience is active trust. It is the ability to remain steady while the outcome is still uncertain. It is learning to live faithfully in the present without becoming consumed by anxiety about the future. This kind of patience cannot be purchased. It cannot be borrowed. It is developed through experience. And through this season, patience has been quietly taking root in your heart. There is also compassion growing within you. The difficulties you have endured have given you a greater understanding of other people's pain. The struggles you have faced have softened parts of your heart that might otherwise have remained closed. You notice hurting people differently now. You listen differently. You understand differently. You carry a gentleness that comes from having walked through challenges of your own. Compassion often grows where suffering has been present, not because suffering is good, but because it can deepen your ability to care for others. My child, these qualities are not small things. Wisdom, resilience, patience, and compassion are treasures that cannot be measured by outward achievements. They are foundations. They are strengths that remain long after circumstances change, long after a season ends, long after a specific prayer is answered. You may have entered this process focused on what you hope to receive. Yet along the way, something equally important has been taking shape within you. You are becoming someone who can carry greater responsibility with wisdom, someone who can face uncertainty with resilience, someone who can endure delays with patience, someone who can walk through life with compassion. The process has not only been preparing circumstances around you, it has been preparing the person within you. And one day, when you look back on this chapter, you may realize that some of the most valuable gifts you received were not external changes at all. They were the qualities that quietly grew inside your heart while you thought nothing was happening. Because even now, beneath the surface, you are becoming more than you were before. And now, my child, after everything you have heard, after all the questions, all the waiting, all the growth taking place beneath the surface, you may find yourself wondering what comes next. What should you do now? What step should you take from here? The answer is not as complicated as you fear. You do not need to have every answer. You do not need to solve every problem. You do not need to carry the burden of controlling the future. What I am inviting you into is something much simpler, yet much deeper. I am inviting you to release what was never meant to remain in your hands. There are things you have been gripping tightly because you believed holding on would protect you. Yet some of those very things have become the source of your exhaustion. You have been carrying disappointments that happened years ago. You have been replaying conversations that cannot be changed. You have been holding on to regret, wondering what would have happened if you had chosen differently. You have been carrying fears about tomorrow that have stolen your peace today. My child, there comes a moment when healing begins, not because everything around you changes, but because you decide to stop carrying what is crushing your heart. Let go of the belief that you must have everything figured out before you can move forward. Let go of the pressure to be perfect. Let go of the constant need to predict every outcome. Let go of the burden of comparing your journey to someone else's journey. The path prepared for you was never meant to look identical to another person's path. Comparison has kept many people from recognizing the beauty of their own story. Release it. There may also be people you need to forgive. Not because what happened was acceptable, not because the hurt was insignificant, but because bitterness quietly chains your heart to pain that belongs in the past. Forgiveness does not mean pretending the wound never existed. It means refusing to allow that wound to control your future. Carrying resentment may feel like protection for a season, but eventually it becomes another burden. My child, I am inviting you toward freedom. Freedom begins when you stop allowing old pain to dictate new possibilities. There are fears that need to be surrendered as well. Fear has spent so much time telling you what could go wrong that it has distracted you from what could go right. Fear wants certainty before taking a step. Trust takes a step even when certainty has not arrived. Fear constantly asks, what if I fail? Trust asks, what if growth is waiting on the other side of obedience? Fear magnifies obstacles. Trust remembers that no obstacle is greater than the purpose guiding your journey. And then there is the invitation to surrender. Many people misunderstand surrender. They imagine weakness. They imagine defeat. But true surrender is neither. True surrender is the decision to stop carrying responsibilities that were never yours to bear. It is opening your hands instead of clenching your fists. It is choosing trust over control. It is choosing faith over constant anxiety. It is choosing to believe that even when the road ahead remains unclear, you do not walk it alone. My child, I am not asking you to carry more. I am asking you to release more. Release the weight of yesterday. Release the fear of tomorrow. Release the false belief that everything depends upon your strength alone. Trust the process that has been unfolding. Trust the growth that has been happening within you. Trust that what has been planted in your heart is still developing. You do not need to force every door open. You do not need to rush every season. You do not need to manufacture your own peace. Simply take the next step before you. Let go, forgive, surrender, trust. Not because every question has been answered, but because your heart is ready to move forward without carrying the burdens that have held you back for so long. And sometimes the most powerful decision a person can make is not to strive harder, but to finally loosen their grip and allow hope to lead them into a new chapter. And when you begin releasing what was never meant to remain in your hands, something remarkable starts to happen. Your eyes slowly lift from what has been behind you toward what may be ahead of you. Not because every difficulty suddenly disappears, not because every question receives an immediate answer, but because hope begins creating space inside your heart once again. My child, there is a future beyond this chapter, even if you cannot fully see it yet. There is more ahead of you than the pain you have experienced, more ahead of you than the disappointments you remember, more ahead of you than the fears that have tried to define your expectations. One of the greatest mistakes people make is assuming that the chapter they are currently living is the entire story. When a season feels long, it can begin to feel permanent. When a struggle lasts for months or years, it can start to look like the final destination. Yet seasons change, the pages turn. New chapters begin, and often they begin quietly, long before anyone realizes they have started. You may be standing closer to a new beginning than you think, not because I am promising a specific outcome or a particular timeline, but because growth always creates the possibility of new opportunities. The wisdom developing within you opens doors that were once beyond your reach. The resilience growing within you prepares you to handle challenges differently than before. The patience taking root within your heart allows you to recognize opportunities that once would have been overlooked. The compassion forming within you enables you to touch lives in ways you never imagined. These things matter because they shape the future you are stepping into. My child, restoration often begins in places people least expect. Sometimes it starts with renewed courage. Sometimes it starts with a fresh perspective. Sometimes it begins with a conversation, a decision, a relationship, or an opportunity that appears ordinary at first but eventually changes everything. Restoration is not always dramatic. Often it unfolds gradually, one step at a time, as life begins moving in a healthier direction. There may be dreams you have set aside because disappointment convinced you they were no longer possible. There may be parts of your heart that have become cautious because previous experiences left scars. There may be hopes that feel distant because waiting has lasted longer than expected. Yet I want you to remember something important. The future is not limited to what you can currently imagine. There are possibilities beyond your present perspective. There are opportunities you have not yet encountered. There are lessons you have not yet learned. There are moments of joy you have not yet experienced. The road ahead contains more than your fears have allowed you to see. Breakthrough is often misunderstood. Many imagine it as one dramatic moment that changes everything instantly. But sometimes breakthrough begins when a person starts believing that their future can be different from their past. Sometimes breakthrough begins when hope returns after a season of discouragement. Sometimes breakthrough begins when a heart that has been closed by disappointment becomes willing to trust again. These are sacred beginnings, even when they appear small. My child, you do not need to know every detail about what lies ahead in order to move forward with confidence. The next chapter does not require complete visibility. It only requires enough faith to take the next step. There is beauty in that. There is freedom in that, because it means you are not responsible for carrying tomorrow before it arrives. You are only responsible for living faithfully in today. As you continue moving forward, do not define your future by the limitations of your current circumstances. Do not assume that what has been will always be. Life contains seasons of renewal. Hearts experience restoration. New opportunities emerge. Unexpected blessings arrive. Fresh purpose unfolds. And while I am not asking you to predict the future, I am inviting you to remain open to the possibility that the story ahead may contain more goodness, more growth, more healing, and more purpose than you can presently see. For the chapter you are living now is not the final page, and the future still holds possibilities waiting to be discovered. And now, my child, as this moment draws to a close, I do not want you to leave carrying the same weight you carried when you arrived. I do not want you to walk away holding the same fears, the same false conclusions, or the same exhaustion that has followed you for so long. Instead, I want you to carry something different. I want you to carry peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from having every answer, not the kind of peace that depends on perfect circumstances, but the kind of peace that settles into the heart when you finally realize that your story is not falling apart, it is still unfolding. Remember what you have learned here. The burden you have been carrying does not define you. The fears that have whispered to you do not define you. The waiting season does not define you. Even the mistakes you regret do not define you. A single chapter cannot explain an entire story. A single season cannot reveal an entire life. There is more to your journey than what you can currently see. There is more growth within you than you have recognized. There is more purpose ahead of you than you have imagined. When you think about the waiting, remember the roots growing beneath the surface. When you think about the struggles, remember the resilience that has been formed within you. When you think about the disappointments, remember the wisdom they helped create. When you think about the future, remember that possibility still exists beyond what your eyes can currently see. My child, do not underestimate the work that has already been accomplished within your heart. There was a time when certain challenges would have completely overwhelmed you, yet here you stand. There was a time when certain disappointments would have convinced you to stop moving forward, yet you continued. There was a time when certain fears felt larger than hope itself, yet hope remains. It may have become quiet at times, it may have felt distant at times, but it remains. And that matters more than you know. As you continue your journey, walk gently with yourself. You do not need to rush. Growth takes time, healing takes time. New beginnings take time. A seed does not become a tree overnight. Roots do not develop in a single day. Seasons unfold according to their purpose. Allow yourself the grace to grow. Allow yourself the freedom to take one step at a time. Allow yourself to believe that progress is still progress, even when it feels slow. My child, I bless your heart with calm where there has been anxiety. I bless your mind with clarity where there has been confusion. I bless your spirit with courage where there has been fear. I bless your journey with renewed hope where discouragement once tried to settle. May you remember that you do not need to carry tomorrow before it arrives. May you remember that growth is often invisible before it becomes visible. May you remember that your worth has never depended upon your performance, your circumstances, or other people's opinions. And may you remember that there is still beauty ahead, even if you cannot fully see it today. Let peace settle over every restless thought. Let hope rise above every fearful prediction. Let gratitude soften every burden. Let trust quiet every anxious question. And when difficult days come, as they sometimes will, return to this simple truth. You are not standing at the end of your story. You are standing in the middle of it. There are still pages left to be written. There are still lessons left to discover. There are still blessings left to receive. There are still opportunities left to embrace. There is still purpose left to unfold. So move forward with a peaceful heart. Move forward with quiet confidence. Move forward knowing that growth has been happening even when you could not see it. Move forward knowing that hope remains alive, and carry this truth with you wherever you go. The season you are in is not the final word over your life. The final word is hope.